Thank you for attending today's webinar. Tad Stevens, CPEthink.com here. With a little housekeeping, there will be 3 poll questions per credit hour. All poll questions must be answered to get credit for the webinar. If you can't answer the poll for a technical reason or some other reason, just answer it in the chat and we will record it that way. Ask questions as we go. There will usually be at least 2 people working the questions or the chat box. There will always be at least 1. To get your certificate of completion, if you will look at the screen here, this is what your Take Exam column will look like before you complete the webinar or before it's over. After the webinar is over, give us about 30 to 60 minutes and we will have it up, the system updated from the webinar provider, and it will look like this so that you can get your certificate of completion. If you have any support issues, just click the chat bubble down at the bottom, open a new conversation like that, and we'll get it taken care of, or send us an email to service@cpethink.com. Thanks a lot.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to today's presentation. This is the Accountants Full Employment webinar. My name is Andy Lockwood. I'm an attorney and a direct marketing guy and a business owner just like you are. And with me is my friend, and I'm actually a former client of his. He's a mentor to me, Mr. Neil Gilmet. How are you doing, Neil?
Andy, if I were any better, I couldn't stand it. I love doing these.
Yeah, I love these also. And, you know, there's a big need for it, given what's happening right now with the coronavirus, and a lot of people are looking for answers. I think there's a lot of not just pessimism, but there's also a lot of false optimism and fluff, and people kind of saying, okay, just think positive thoughts and you can manifest.
There's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, exactly. So I look at what we're going to be doing here to help out accountants as very necessary. You've been in the field of advising accountants for how long? 15, 20 years?
30, 35 years I've been working with CPAs almost exclusively.
Yeah. And you've been in business for yourself as an business owner for more than 50 years, right?
Yeah, 50 years in business, 9 businesses, and 35 years working with CPAs, and specializing in what I call the business of accounting. All right, I can't add 2 and 2 to make 4, but the business of accounting is where my expertise lies. They don't teach that in accounting school.
Yeah, you said something interesting to me also maybe a week ago when we were talking about how many ups and downs and booms and busts that you've been through, and you said something very interesting about I guess it was a comment that your partner made to you about how you always kind of sell your way out.
Yeah, I had a business where I had a partner who happened to be a CPA at the time, and I remember him saying to me one day, Neil, no matter how many things, no matter how many holes we fall into, you always sell our way out of that hole. And I looked at him and I said, you're right, I do. And then I realized that he was digging holes. That's why he's no longer a partner.
Well, a lot of people feel like they're in a hole right now, and I think what's going to come through the next hour that we spend, I think it's going to be a lot of valuable advice that's based on real life experience. It's not theory. It's not vague. It's based on your experiences, mostly a little bit of mine. Here's what we're going to be covering on this webinar. 3 things. First is how to right the ship, how to hunker down and take care of everything you've got to take care of, and then emerge even stronger on the other side. That's the goal for today.
Yep.
We're going to talk specifically about what you should be communicating to your clients and prospective clients. And the third thing is how to get more leads, qualified leads in today's turbulent times. So you said to me also right before we went live that this might be the most important workshop you've ever given. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, the word from my accounting firms and my accounting clients and friends is panic time. A lot of them feel they're going to lose their clients. They're losing all their clients. I spoke to one guy that I've worked with for 6 or 7 years. He said, Neil, I'm losing 50, 60% of my client base. They're going out of business. They're just shutting down. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, my solution to him was take the 40 or 50% that's left and provide them with much more value that you'll have time and the ability to provide them with that you couldn't provide them because you had too many clients. And quite frankly, in his case, that happens to be the fact. He's got too many clients that were dragging him down. So the reason I say this is that every CPA that I've spoken to is kind of in a panic mode. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Oh, woe is me. And what I'm hoping to do today is give you some solutions. We want to give you some strategies that you can put to work tomorrow. Admittedly, times are tough. Things are difficult. They're going to get tougher before they get better. But in my experience, how to thrive, helping your clients prosper in a contracting economy, opportunities abound if you just look for them. If you stick your head up and look for opportunities, you're going to find them. If you got your head down or you're curled up in a fetal position going, oh, woe is me, I guarantee you're not going to, nothing's going to work for you.
Can I just jump in? So you just said something very important, which is that you have to look around. So many of us, I'm an attorney by training. So we're guilty of this just the way the CPAs are. We get stuck in thinking that, listen, this is the way it's always been. I can't try anything new. And that, if we thought that way as a species, we'd probably be extinct, somewhere in the Serengeti in Africa, as storms came and we never left. So this is not the time to be entrenched in your beliefs. This is the time to have this open mind, or as you say all the time, an empty cup.
Well, an empty cup is important. And in any accounting profession, the majority of the accounting firms that are out there are working under what I call the class of 1946 model. That's the way we've always done it. That's the way it's always been done in the profession. And that's the way we're going to continue to do it. And quite frankly, most CPAs are shooting themselves in the foot by working with that model, because it's devastating to their ability to make money and enjoy their career, quite frankly.
All right. Well, so we're going to cover a lot of strategies today. We counted up 7 of them, and I'm excited to dig in here because I agree there are new opportunities. Personally, I'm in the college planning business. We help kids get in. We help parents with money. It's actually an exciting time for me, even though we're feeling the pressure. We're looking at new opportunities too, and this is all stuff that we can talk about to help people. So let's talk about the strategies, okay?
Well, let's start out with this. Think about this. New companies, products, and even new industries are born out of economic challenges. Phoenix is rising from the ashes, so to speak. The question is, don't you want to be the person in your profession who's not victimized by this, what appears to be reality, but who creates a new reality from the opportunities in the rubble of the mess, of the dirt? By taking very precise, exact, and correct actions, you can overcome any economic setback and achieve a level of success you choose. It's just no two ways about it. How do I know that? Because I've done it myself about 9 times in my life. Been there, done that, and been the phoenix rising from the ashes. I mean, part of my expertise, as you know, Andy, is I've made every mistake you can make in the world of small business, and I still remember most of them. Yeah. So I've been right where you guys are at many times, and quite frankly, step number 1, this disaster can become the CPA's Full Employment Act. The silver lining in a cloud, only if you take advantage of it.
So it sounds like it's about the attitude. Is that
that's what it starts. And today's workshop is going to be about how to do it.
All right. So strategy number 1 is all about attitude and not only what you feel internally, but also what you convey to your clients and your prospective clients.
Absolutely. First of all, put on your cheerleader costume. Get rid of the doom and gloom and start believing in the future and believe in yourself. Attitude is everything. You're in charge of your attitude. Choose an attitude of confidence and competence. I call it the 2 big C's, competence and confidence. Number 1, you already have the competence locked in. You've been doing this for X number of years. You've got thousands of hours of CPE. You've been to school. You've been working with hundreds of clients. You're already competent. Don't even question your competence. The one that you have to work on is your confidence. And sometimes with the confidence, You have to fake it to make it. In other words, you need to appear very confident, even if you're not. Perception is reality. And one of my famous sayings that people picked up on is you need to make like a duck. You may be paddling like hell underneath the water, but on the top, you're smooth as glass. That's what I mean by confidence. You need to be perceived as totally confident in your ability to bring value.
I think we're all, looking for leadership, people to tell us it's going to be okay and here's what to do. Even if you don't have all the answers, I still think it's vitally important to project that aura of, listen, we're going to figure it out.
I'm not a big sports fan, but I forget how many years it took because people believed that you couldn't break a 4-minute mile. I don't know how many years people said you can't break a 4-minute mile until somebody broke the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, Roger Bannister.
Right, and now, okay, you know better than I do. And now everybody breaks not everybody, but people are breaking the 4-minute mile constantly. Well,
right after he broke it, apparently, like 5 other people did in that year, but no one had done it before because they thought it was impossible. Yeah, it's interesting.
So if you think you can, or you think you can't, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's not me. That's Henry Ford that said that.
Yeah. Did you know Henry when you bought your first car?
Yes, I did. I bought it right from his factory.
Hank, they called him.
Yeah, Hank. You need to start managing your client perceptions in real time. That's lesson number 1. You must manage perceptions because perception is or becomes reality.
Can I give an example of how I'm doing that with my own clients personally?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, we're trying to give you actionable tips. This is nothing other than us, trying to give you tested and proven things that we each do. So I mentioned I'm a college planner, and I'm communicating regularly, several times a week. I'm actually even offering new products, which we'll talk about later, that are going pretty well. But I'm communicating to my own clients, and I'm communicating to my prospective clients. Over the years, I've developed an email list. And one of the things I've done with today's technology, with anyone can do, which is really super easy, is I have started doing weekly updates on a Facebook page. So if you don't have a Facebook page for your business, you should create one. It's very easy. And then you should announce to your list. And if you don't have a list, you should compile one. On Monday or Tuesday, 10 a.m., I'm going to be getting on and I'm going to be answering your questions. So the last couple of ones that we've done, we've had 100-something people on, and we've called it College Coffee and Coronavirus Talk. And it's me and my wife, who's my partner. We chit-chat and we go through, here's what's happening now. And we always say, we're not sure exactly, what's how things are going to end up, but here's current state of the union. And what question do you guys have? And we're on for an hour. And we don't have the answers to every question. We just can kind of reassure people, listen, we don't know yet. It could go one way, it could go the other way. But it's just as simple as sitting down across from your desk like you do in your office, talking to people, and it goes a long way. And you build confidence for yourself also, in addition to projecting that confidence and leadership to your groups.
And that confidence is catching. If you speak to your clients like Andy does, and you believe that there is a future, and you let them know, we don't have all the answers. We have a ton of questions, but we are looking for answers, and there are things that we can all do right now to continue toward prosperity. And that's what I'm here to talk about.
So that's an action step. Action steps here: communicate to your list. If you're just sending an email, or you get up on Facebook, Facebook makes it so easy. You do a test one first and then go live. It's really easy to do.
Yep. And biggest thing is, don't worry about not having all the answers. One of the biggest fears my accountants face when I work with staff is they're afraid to talk to clients because they say, what if I don't have all the answers? What if I can't answer the client's questions? My point is, so what? There's 900,000 words or so in the Bible, and I know a couple of people that know them all. Last time we checked, there were 42 million words in the tax code. Nobody knows them all, so it's okay not to know.
So when I've been studying direct marketing and doing a lot of marketing for my own business for about 20 years, and about 15 years ago, I did a radio show, and I remember talking to my partner on the show, and we were both terrified. Like, what if we get a question that we can't answer. And what the one great bit of advice that we got from the producer was, listen, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, that's a great question. Thank you very much for that. I don't have enough time to be able to give you the full answer that you deserve. So let's talk about that. Call the office Monday morning. Here's my number, whatever. There's nothing wrong with saying the equivalent of that. And people respect that. It's okay. That's an interesting question. I got to go back and research it. And then let's get together. Give me a day or two.
That's another technique you use. Andy, may I ask why that's important to you? So I want to understand why it's important to the person that asked it. And Andy, now that I understand why it's important to you, I cannot give you the answer right now. But as you said, if you're willing to contact me via email or phone number, whatever it is, I will research it and we can talk about the answer offline and just move on with the show.
It's really interesting to me that an accountant in today's times could be nervous that they're not going to that they're going to look dumb in front of their clients. I mean, I'm not an accountant. I have an accountant. I am. That never crosses my mind. But just remember, even if you are still you're still a little gun shy about it, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. You just have to know a little bit more, and you know so much more.
So much more. You don't realize how much more you know. If you took one of my other workshops, you'd know how much more you know.
Good. All right, ready to transition into the second strategy?
Yep. Let's talk about strategy number 2.
And that's not just contacting, but listening.
Yep. Worst thing you could do, well, let's put it this way. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. God's trying to tell you something. It means you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. And when you contact your clients and simply listen to them without giving them solutions, without feeling you have to give them solutions, just call them and listen to them and tell them that you will do the best you can to help them through this crisis and help them improve their businesses and help them put life back to normal. You don't know how right now. Nobody knows.
So let's say people want to start calling their clients one-on-one, which sounds like a great idea also. What type of you are the master of many things, but of open-ended questions and Socratic questions, hands down. So what are some of the Andy, what are some of the questions that?
Well, first I say, Andy, listen. Thanks for taking my call. I know that's times are tough right now. The reason I called you is to let you know that I'm here to hear about what's going on in your world. I'm here to help you put things back, to get your business back on its feet, and I'm going to stay in contact with you. May I ask you a question?
Yes.
What are the biggest concerns that you have right now about your business? And just listen. You don't have to have answers. You need to listen. Just by listening, you will give your clients a tremendous comfort that you're there for them. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has any answers for that matter, except that if you continue to work towards a result, you will eventually achieve the result. So just get on a phone and listen.
Every one of us wants to feel important and feel like we're validated. And a lot of business owners, they can't talk about this stuff when they come home, and they're probably working longer hours these days also. So just having someone in your corner who's asking only about you without any other agenda, that is priceless. And that's just going to make people feel better. So calling people one-on-one, talking to them in groups, however you do it, if you give off the impression that, and the genuine impression that you're there to help them, it's about them, and listen to them, it's going to go a long way.
You must be sincerely interested in them. If you're not sincerely interested in them, you're going to end up with having what I call commission breath. And commission breath stinks and it drives people away. So be sincerely interested and listen. Don't speak. I mean, if you speak to the client for 20 minutes or a half an hour, 20 minutes out of that half hour should be listening. 25 minutes should be listening. No solutions. You don't have to have the answers. You just have to have the questions.
But some will present themselves, I think, also. I mean, there'll be some obvious things. I mean, you see this in your practice as a consultant, and so do I with my clients, is that sometimes it's so they know what the answer is, and you're just leading them and giving them the confidence.
Things will occur as a result of what we call empathetic listening. Right? Look up empathetic listening. It's important.
they might be staring at, well, laying people off or not, or cutting certain expenses or not, and they know the answer and they could just talk to you about it, and you'll be saying that, oh, that's a no-brainer. Of course you have to do that.
I know not everybody out there is of the Catholic faith, and I'm not, but we all know what a confessional is all about. And you need to be like the priest on the other side of that wall in a confessional. You need to listen. You need to listen. And after you've listened to them, tell them it's going to be all right. We're going to work it out together. So that's the idea. As an empty cup, we can't spend too much time on the empty cup today, but emptying your cup means emptying your cup of your agenda, of what you want to accomplish, of what you want to tell people. They don't want to hear you right now. They want to be listened to. They need, as you said before, they need an ear that understands them. And you can't understand people when you're talking. So listen.
You do a whole workshop on questions and listening, an empty cup, and I think that is terrific. That's obviously a whole different presentation.
That's a whole workshop on emptying your cup and empathetic listening and Socratic questioning, Socratic conversation and questioning. So that's another whole workshop, but it works.
Well, it also helps that you knew Socrates before Henry Ford. So
yes, it was. We partied together before he died.
Such a network you've built up over the years. It's amazing. Old Socrates.
Oh, by the way, let me just, before we get off move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Reach out to connect with both your clients, your past clients, and your prospects. Reach out to all of them. The more people you connect with, the more business you're going to end up getting. Just that simple.
Yeah, and you're going to be doing things that your competitors are not doing. And just circling back to my suggestion about doing a Facebook broadcast, that is, to me, the fastest and best way, instead of making one-on-one calls, which you should do also. But it could be, hey, I just want to let you know I'm doing a Q&A event next Monday morning at 10 o'clock on my Facebook page. Just email me and I'll send you the details if you have to leave a message or something, or send out an email blast with that, and it'll be the same thing. So a combination of one-on-one and group. You're going to distinguish yourself from your competitors. You're going to hear, well, I wish my CPA would call me. I haven't heard from him. That's
right. Listen, statistically, over the last 25 or 30 years that it's been studied, a 68% of the people who change CPAs do so because of a perception of indifference. Keep that in mind, perception of indifference. And again, perception is reality. So don't be indifferent. When they perceive that you're indifferent, they're as good as gone.
That's really interesting, and that makes a lot of sense. I was not aware of that, but that really does resonate with me. And the perception is the important thing, because the accountant may not feel indifferent, but we all get caught up in our own stuff. So if you can systematize an outreach in a way to demonstrate that you care, hopefully you do actually care. I'm just assuming
that if you don't, you're going to have to make your breath anyway.
Yeah, you shouldn't be on this presentation if you don't care.
Right.
But you have to you can't just do it once in a while when you think about it. You've got to systematize it. So like I said before, we're doing a series of weekly college coffee and coronavirus talks until we have nothing else to say. And that's what we've told everyone. And then people will hear that and they type in the comments, oh no, please do. We love this. Keep it coming. So and we do it because we care.
And we may boot this up with CPAs also. We've been talking about it. So it may be something we boot up with accountants.
Yeah, we can train you how to do it if you want. Yeah. Okay. Here's a great one. I think this is the most exciting one and positive message. I think this is probably one of the most positive presentations anyone's going to hear these days. But the third strategy is all about uncovering other opportunities.
And this is strategy number 3. In case you haven't been paying attention, the Fed is setting aside $8 billion. Or was it trillion? I have no idea.
Well, the SBA, I know, has $350 billion, and that's as of the time we're doing this presentation. It could be more.
There's going to be $8 trillion or something, and I keep hearing these numbers. Anyway, the federal government's putting a ton of money out there. Why shouldn't you get a piece of it? And here's the best way to go about it. They're setting aside all these dollars for SBA loans and grants and other financial tools to boost the economy to keep small business solvent. Finally, somebody caught on. We've got to do something for Main Street. And why shouldn't you get yours? You can earn between $2,400 and $25,000 per client to help them prosper despite the COVID disaster. You can help them get SBA loans, and there's a lot of accounting that goes with it. You can learn how to handle the forms. You're good at filling out government forms anyway. And the concept is, if the forms are not done accurately and precisely, and they don't have the right documentation required with them in the way that the government wants it, they'll get kicked back out and they'll go to the back of the line. And by the time they get to the front of the line again, the money may be gone. So nobody is better suited than a CPA to handle this process. And you can get up to $2,500 just for filling out the applications. Never mind the bookkeeping that may come with it, the tax returns that may have to be fixed, financial statements, personal financial statements, and other documentation that you can produce and get paid. You can get between $2,400 and $25,000 a client, depending upon the size of the client and the amount of work that's to be done. It's there for you. In fact, I have a client that worked the oil spill. An accountant that in Florida that worked on that oil spill, the BP, whatever it was. And he helped his clients. He helped 167 clients pick up almost, I forget how many millions of dollars they picked up. But in helping those clients, those 167 clients at $2,000 a pop, it was more than he ended up bringing in anyway. He ended up going from a two-man shop in 3 years to a 22-person accounting firm. And he had done, I don't know how many millions, and he brought back about $45 million in reparations to his clients that he worked with. So it's doable. It's the same thing. It's paperwork and accounting, paperwork and accounting. You have the opportunity.
So let me jump in here, because there's so many things that you just covered here. This is just one of many opportunities that's going to emerge. What you're talking about is something very specific. It's about, again, you have to think outside the box.
That's just one.
But if you look at the SBA website, because I've done this too, and we're actually helping people with this as well. If you look at the SBA website, it lays out for you exactly what is needed. Now, there's a little bit of confusion about which program, but you just have to use your skills that are very, you can cross-train yourself, because so much of applying for these loans has to do with information that you already have, number one. And that's just the initial, fee to offer someone. Maybe it's someone new. It's certainly for your own clients, and you should absolutely charge them for this, but also for potentially new people. And then you get clients, like I think you mentioned that your client in Florida thought that he converted somewhere about near 80% of the people that he did the
80% of the people that came to him because their accountant didn't step up to the plate.
So
he retained 80% of them as clients,
as accounting clients, right? So there's
accounting clients after the fact.
Yeah.
Accounting clients after the fact.
So there's the initial hiring of 2,000 or 2,500, and then you get clients for life, for the next couple of decades. So you can build a real business, not just a one-hit wonder, out of this event that we're all experiencing, and you will help a lot of people who are overwhelmed. And in terms of the reasons that they need you, sometimes it's hard to remember what's involved, because you could look at this list on the SBA.gov site and think to yourself, anyone can do this. But what you just said was that and this is something to emphasize to your clients in any normal time too, not just a pandemic time, is the cost of not using an expert, because you can mess up. So if you mess these forms up and you get denied, there's a 90-day wait just to resubmit. That's in maybe even in normal times. As the SBA gets busier and busier, the review times are going to push out, and all sorts of stuff can happen from these delays, including your credit could drop because you're not paying your own bills, and that could end up getting you denied.
Absolutely.
A few weeks out. So there's all these reasons that you have to get it right the first time. And you, as an accountant, if you're watching this, you're in the best position to be able to ensure. Even if you think you're not, even if you've never done it before, you're still in a much better position.
And here's a question you might want to write down to ask your clients, an example of a question. Andy, if I can help you get $100,000 loan that turns into a grant that you don't have to pay back, is that something you'd be interested in?
Who's going to say no? Even if you don't need it, who's going to say no?
Who's going to say no to that?
Of course,
Secondly, let's talk about how specifically we would use that $100 to supercharge your business. Now you've developed a conversation that the business owner is going to be excited about. 2 little questions. You didn't tell them any, just 2 questions. So keep that strategy in mind.
Yeah, just imagine what it'd be like to wake up and see $2 million, because that's the maximum, $2 million in your company's corporate bank account. How would that feel, and how would you use that? Would you pay?
How would that impact your life?
Right. Would you use that to pay down some debt? Would you use that to support your employees? Would you use that to make sure that you have a solid foundation to not only weather the storm, but to emerge even stronger on the other side? Easy questions to ask. Great questions.
Absolutely. Now, just in the same vein, when this COVID virus is over, and it's going to be over, there's going to be a peak. It may take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know. Nobody knows. But when it's over.
Wait a minute. Our president knows. He has set an expiration date.
That's right. He did. Hopefully he's right. I mean, I'd like nothing better for him to be right. I think he's optimistic, but hey, we'll see.
Nothing wrong with optimism.
Yeah, nothing wrong with optimism. It's gotten me out of a lot of jams.
Yeah.
Now is the time to get yourself and your practice, because you are going to lose clients. Clients are going to go out of business. They're not going to leave, but they're going to go out of business. You're going to lose clients. So when this is done, you're going to have a smaller client base. Probably. I almost guarantee it. What you should be focusing on in your practice is something called business optimization. You have all the skills and experience to help clients with business optimization. Most businesses that don't operate with tight fiscal management, we don't have time to get into what that is, but tight fiscal management, they're losing anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20% of their top line through profit leaks, redundancies, operational inefficiencies, and other things like that. Learn how to plug those leaks and become a superstar. Focus on business optimization. Yes, we do accounting, but we use the accounting to do business optimization for our clients to make sure that they are putting the most money in their pocket for the least amount of work. That's what we do that's different from our traditional accounting brethren.
Yeah, and again, that's a whole nother presentation and workshop that you do. But I think that for me as a business owner, I don't want an accountant. I want someone who's going to help me make more money and have a better quality of life. That's right. Really what I want. And sometimes accountants confuse, most of the time they confuse that. They talk about all the services they offer, but in reality, the accounting is a means to an end. And Neil, you are, I'll say it again, at the expense of repeating myself, but you are a master of changing the conversation from the little stuff to the higher ground.
Keep this one thing in mind out there, folks. You need to become relevant to my income and quality of life, because I can't figure out how your bank rec is relevant to my quality of life and income. You need to be able to be conversant in it and explain it to me. So you need to become relevant to results rather than services. I don't want to buy services. I don't wake up on a Saturday morning and say to my wife, honey, it's a beautiful day today. Why don't we go out shopping for some new accounting services or legal services for that matter? And if I do that, I can probably be helped. It's going to take a long time. So nobody wants to buy your services, but everybody wants to buy results. Start thinking in terms of results, because results equal value.
Listen, not to be too mercenary about it, but when you focus on the results and you can quantify them, like me, I can help you save, their $20,000 a month. I know you've achieved results like that for your clients.
Oh yeah.
Then you can have high fees for that. I know you don't like that word, but
the
question of fee goes away.
I believe that you shouldn't be charging fees. Clients should be making an investment in a relationship with you. An investment, by definition, demands a return. So if you start speaking in terms of an investment in a relationship with you, you're kind of forced to look at, well, how am I creating the return, rather than just selling them services that they neither like nor want to buy. Keep that in mind.
Yep, it's another example of going to the higher ground, which I love. It's changed my own personal practice tremendously. So,
And
anyone listening,
you start with your current clients. That's where it all starts.
yeah.
Um,
So if anyone ever gets a chance to work with me on this, you should absolutely take them up on it, because it'll not only help you, but it'll help your clients. So, are you ready to get into the 4 components of an optimized?
Yep. Let's get into the 4. Let's get into strategies 4 through 7, or the 4 components of an optimized business.
Okay.
Um,
First one is creating opportunities.
The first one is actually efficiently creating the proper opportunities for your business. That's called marketing in many words, but there's a million different ways to look at it. And that's where Andy is superb. He's the best I've ever worked with in creating opportunities and filling the pipeline. So strategy number 1 is creating the right opportunities for the least investment for the most results. Once you create those opportunities, strategy number 5 is by process converting the best opportunities into high profit relationships. I call that the discovery process. It's a class that I teach. It basically runs 4 8-hour days. It's called the boot camp, accountant's boot camp, but it takes 4 8-hour days just to get everybody to understand it. And then they've got to go out and apply it to learn it. So converting is the next thing. Efficiently creating, converting the best opportunities into high profit relationships. Strategy number 6 is delivering on the value promise. There has to be a thread of continuity from the first conversation in creating the opportunity, which Andy's expertise is, not mine. Andy's expertise, and the value promise that you use to create the opportunity, the bait that you put on the hook, so to speak, in one way of looking at it, that has to be a thread of continuity into converting the client, and there has to be a thread of continuity into keeping the client. It's really delivering super client service, because it's easy to get the clients, but as we said before, 68% of the people that change accountants do so because of a perception of indifference. You can screw up, you can drop the ball, you can make mistakes, but if the client perceives that you're not indifferent to them, but you're on top of them, you'll keep the client. The next strategy, once you've delivered on the value promise or super client service, here's where most firms fall down, not just CPA firms, your client firms. Running the factory at optimum efficiency. Now, I had a CPA say to me, look, we're a professional firm, we're not a factory. And I went, gee, if we were making widgets, we'd take raw materials in one end of the factory and we'd process them through to sell a nice shiny widget for a profit, right? Yeah. I said, and that's different from a CPA firm, how? It's not. We're taking intellectual property in and we're providing products with it. That's a factory. That's called the throughput process. Learn to manage your throughput process. Identify bottlenecks in the throughput process. Eliminate them, because every bottleneck in your throughput process is a huge profit leak. Just keep that in mind. So learn how to run the factory at optimum efficiency. That's where most CPAs fall down miserably. And we don't have the time to get into it today, because I can spend a whole day on that topic. Yeah. In fact, I could spend 3 days on that topic of how to go about doing it. Yeah. Why don't we take a look at strategy number 4, efficiently creating the proper opportunities in your marketplace. I'd like to hand that off to Andy, because it's one of the most important things you can do. If you don't create the right leads at the right price, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Okay. Yeah. Listen, well, this will be quick, because, right, this could be a whole nother, again, we do these workshops, and this
we're running short on time, or as it is.
Yeah. And I don't want to overwhelm people. But leads, you may not think of it, of your business, your accounting practice this way, but every business leads qualified, people, prospective clients. That's the lifeblood of every business. And it also gives you certainty and security in terms of projecting your cash flow. If you have a system of generating high quality leads, you never have to really worry. Even in today's times, and I've been talking to Neil offline, knock on wood, that we're still, getting a lot of qualified leads, and people, and still converting them. high fee clients, knock on wood, double 2 times, as opposed to a marketing accident. So I know a lot of people, we've talked before, they've hired marketing people, they try stuff and then it doesn't work. And then they think, okay, advertising doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work if it's a spasm, a marketing seizure, as opposed to a system. So what everyone needs to be thinking about is, I gave a tactic before, which is doing a Facebook live presentation, which is super easy, but that's just a one-off thing. That's not part of a bigger overarching strategy. So you have to figure out a few things. And again, this is we're giving this a short shrift out of necessity of time. But who is my ideal client? Who I want as a client, and equally important, who do I not want? So here's something that everyone should do. Look through your current client database and pick out your 20 or 30 best clients, try to figure out what they have in common. And then right after that, number 2 is go through your client base. You probably will have done this at the same time, and pick out your worst clients. And you want to figure out what the best ones have in common, what the worst ones have in common, where they hang out. So there's stuff like demographics, income and things like that. But there's also psychographics, like what are their attitudes, like what types of things are they interested in? It could be certain political leanings. It could be stuff having to do with groups that they associate with. It could be parental things. Who knows? You'll determine this. And now that you're coming up with your ideal client, the next part is figuring out, well, what am I going to say to them? What message is going to resonate with them? We just, Neil just gave you a mini seminar right before we got into this component, which is all about talking to them about their problems, not selling them something, but trying to uncover, what they want, which is usually something along the lines of a higher income and better quality of life, so that they can achieve a certain lifestyle that they desire. And the third component is, okay, well, how do I get that message to them? How do I market to them? Where are they? So some of them could be, who knows, on LinkedIn. Some of them could be on Facebook. Some of them could be on both. The point is that you can't just scattershot and throw out messages without any strategy. And then the last thing I'll say is you've got to, once you have the message to market match, then you need to look at every dollar that you are investing in your marketing. It's not an expense, it's an investment, and see what it is producing. And if you're not getting at least 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1 of return on your investment for your marketing, then something's wrong. So you need to track everything that you do.
Andy, couldn't have been said better. You are a master at this. I learn from you every day that we speak about this. The biggest thing that I've learned in the marketing is that when you said find out the characteristics of your 20 best clients and your 20 worst clients, once you've done that, write down what your ideal client is like and put it in writing. Identify your ideal client in writing, both from the psychographic and physical, everything. Because if you don't identify them in writing, number one, how do you recognize them when you stumble across one? And number two, how do you create an effective, efficient marketing program to draw them to you? So it's got to be in writing or it's not done properly. And the same thing with a worst client, because you want to get rid of them.
Yeah, the act of writing it gives you clarity and a record, and you can keep track, because you may have more than one ideal client. I certainly do.
And it also enables you to train staff people to go out and bring in business.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on that. I think that's important to do as you scale, but no one's ever going to be as good at it as you, the business owner, is.
No, you're right.
So anyway, so that's very important. And I'll also understand that when you craft your messages, you are not supposed to be all things to all people. It's okay to be polarizing. The most successful people, and you can, don't read into this too much, but if there's any superpower that Donald Trump has, it's being polarizing and attracting the right people in his mind and repelling the others. But same thing with Howard Stern, same thing with Rush Limbaugh. So, you could go through a whole list of celebrities, and that's what they're really good at. May I add one more thing, which I think is also,
sure.
So we're really focused right now on hunkering down and shoring up leaks and all that. But we've also noted before in terms of optimizing, that this is really a long-term play. We're not trying to just shore up leaks. So another big mistake that people make all the time is they are so focused on getting the next sale that they're leaving a lot of money on the table. And I know I want to ask you about the example that we talk about sometimes, where you worked with a business. That I think that's in the optimizing component. But what you should be thinking about is building a list. It's not so much, you're not getting a client to make the money, you're getting a client to build a list. And what I mean by that is you don't want to just give people two options. Either you hire me now because you need me, or not. So plenty of people are going to hire you right now, particularly in these troubled times, especially if you take Neil's advice on how to convert them, which is the next component. But there's going to be more people who don't. So what do you do with them? Do you just let those leads, slip through your fingers? I was telling you yesterday, I just got retained by a client who, paid me $10,000 for the next year to work with her and her family. And originally, she came to a presentation that I did a year and a half ago, and we had a conversation about a year ago, right after that presentation. And she kind of went away and just decided she wasn't ready at that time. And now here we are a year later, because she's been on my email list and she gets my messages and she attends my Facebook chats and everything that I'm talking about here. She finally came back and said, okay, well, now we're ready. So it happens all the time to me. And that would not happen if I were not gathering a database also and communicating to them with a message to market match.
Absolutely. One of the biggest profit leaks in a CPA firm, you go out and you meet with a prospect. And if they don't hire you, if you don't get the engagement, you just walk away and leave it alone and let it sit. If you follow up on those prospects that you didn't get the engagement and stay in touch with them, there are ways to do that Andy can help you with, as well as myself. Stay in touch with those prospects. A lot of them you're going to close a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years later.
And it's got to be a system. I don't follow up personally with them. I'm terrible at that. I'm the weak link. So it's got to be, but you have to do the work up front to create a system, and it will pay off.
Everything that we talk to you today about, or anytime, is always process driven. There's people, process, and product. You have to provide a superb product.
Yeah.
And you need the right people on the bus, and they need to be in the right seats in the bus.
Yeah.
And, I've had a bus full of people who are all in the wrong seats. Now, I've been there, done that, and have that T-shirt. But you must provide a superb product, whatever it is, because nobody wants to buy a second-class product. And everything has to be done by process. Process, process, process. Why do you think McDonald's is so profitable?
Yeah.
They even teach you when to wipe the door down. Every half hour, somebody goes out to wipe the glass door down and wipe the fingerprints off. Everything is process-driven. It's not people-driven. So keep that in mind for your business. And you are in a business, not in a practice. There's a big difference between
Good. All right, let's move along because we're running out of time here. So the next part is, after you've created these opportunities, then it gets into one of your superpower areas of expertise, which is converting those people to high-quality clients. So talk about that.
We don't have much time because we're running short, but I'm going to run into this. I've spent 40 years of my life developing a process called selling without selling, because nobody likes to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. And accountants hate to sell. They hate to be salespeople. Lawyers hate to be salespeople. So don't be one. There's a whole process that you can use called selling without selling, which draws the right people toward you like iron filings to a magnet.
Yeah.
But you notice I said the right people. That comes back to what Andy just said before. So it's a process. I mean, I do a 4-day, 10-hour-a-day boot camp to teach this to CPAs and attorneys and other people that want to learn it. So we can't spend much time on it here, but it is process driven. It's Socratic in methodology, and it involves listening a hell of a lot more than it involves speaking. And the worst thing you can do, if anything you get out of today's program, never, ever go out to pitch a client. Because clients don't like to be pitched, number one, and number two, it's not about you, it's about them. So keep that in mind. It's not about you. Uh,
Let me just jump in because the difficulty in this presentation that we're doing right now is that there's so much to cover. But I just want to tell you my own personal experience working with Neil. Everything Neil said about my ability to market my skills, I of course agree with tenfold. I'm very proud of myself.
Cool.
However, I never thought of myself as a particularly effective, quote unquote, sales person. I do think of myself as persuasive, but I felt like my marketing was doing, the job for me, and I was getting me to third base. And then when I finally met with someone, I didn't really have to do any type of selling. That being said, the specific languaging and precision of language, I should say, that Neil taught me, and he potentially could talk to you if you get a chance to work with him, improves your conversions and your revenue without having to spend or invest any more money in marketing, because you will convert a higher percentage of people who are high quality people. And it's all about what you just said, is asking the right questions and bringing them into an awareness of what they lack. They may think they have a certain problem, but what they really don't know is, the implications of that or other things that could be more important than whatever they are dwelling on. And once you do that, and you do this in a genuine, helpful manner, and you offer value, you will see a huge uptick in your conversions and your revenue.
And the first thing we teach you is how to remove selling pressure from yourself and selling pressure from the prospect, and have a conversation like Andy and I are having a conversation today. But control conversation versus casual conversation.
And it is okay. One of the other things that you teach is it's okay if they are not right for you. In fact, that's a good thing.
You want to find that out as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you, in my own life, when I told you about a promotion I did at the end of the year last year, and I had something like 43 appointments that had booked with me from this as a result of this one webinar that I did. And you said, yeah, that's great. And my comment to you is, yeah, well, of course, now I'm dwelling on, now I have to talk to all these freaking people, right? So it's okay to polarize, and your job, if your marketing delivers these opportunities, it's going to be to siphon out and sift and sort. And when you have these conversations with them, that's also more sorting. And it's much easier to say, I don't think we're right for each other, when you have another 10 prospects that day or the next day.
And more importantly, you want to eliminate the bad seed as rapidly and efficiently as possible. Yeah. It's my favorite four-letter word: next.
Yeah, those are the I think of them as the energy vampires, because they suck up all your life. They never want to pay the amount that they should, but they also take time away from your servicing your better clients or finding better clients.
Absolutely,
opportunity cost. I'm sure we all have clients like that, right?
All right, let's jump over to transition. Let's transition to number 7. It's called, delivering on a value promise is there. And I have to touch on number 6. Delivering on a value promise is very simple. You had a thread of continuity as to why they hired you to accomplish certain things. You need to deliver. And if you do it properly, you're going to have the client doing most of the work. You're guiding the client, but you need to deliver on a value promise. And the client needs to understand the perception of value, I always call it. They need to understand the value that you bring to them, and they're not going to figure that out on their own. In fact, one of the tools I use is, if you want people to know something about you, do you whisper it in the basement, or do you shout it from the housetop? Yeah. Whispering in the basement doesn't do you any good. So you need to make clients aware of the value that you bring them when you bring it to them, because they won't figure it out on their own. That's delivering on a value promise. It's over-delivering and under-promising. If you think you can get my tax return out in 2 weeks and it takes you 2.5 weeks, you're a loser. If you tell me it's going to take 3 weeks and you get it to me in 2.5 weeks, you're a winner. Under promise, over deliver. That's and that's process driven also, but we don't have the time to spend on that. We could spend a day on that tool also.
Yeah, let me just throw in here. So again, you use the phrase thread of continuity. So this value proposition starts with the marketing before you even sit down with someone. And then when you sit down and convert them, you're emphasizing that. And then when you go to deliver it, the example you gave is perfect, because my own CPA, I have this issue with him too. It's about setting expectations and communicating them properly. If he says, yeah, I'll get this out to you by 4, and then 3 days goes by and I don't have it, I'm angry. If he just said, yeah, just give me 3 or 4 days and I'll get it to you, I'm not angry and I'm very happy. And I think he's, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I do this in my own practice. Right now I'm in the process of negotiating a lot of financial aid awards, and I'll say, okay, let me get that letter out to you. After I talk to them, give me a couple days, and you'll have it, and then you should edit it and then get it back to me. And usually I get it out to them in 24 hours because I've templatized it. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, so it's way ahead of when they are expecting it.
That's it. Do what you say you're going to do. Walk your talk.
Yeah, do more. It's very easy to do more than what you say. And then there's the whole thing about staying in contact with them and setting expectations. So circling back to, I'm not a one-trick pony, I don't think, but you guys just if you're going to start one thing, start regular client chats on your Facebook page or somewhere. And this way you're staying in touch with them and reinforcing why they hired you, what value you deliver. And they'll just feel good, even if they don't attend these things, knowing that you're there for them. They'll see the value. And again, it's going to be so different than what any other accountant, any of your competitors is doing. It'll be a category of one. You'll be incomparable.
Absolutely. We do a whole hour and a half seminar on the business owner being the lonely guy at the top and how you can fill the void. But we don't have time for that here today.
But it's an important point because they have their own problems. They have no one else to speak to, and they want value. Any business owner, they're in business basically to provide something value to their clients and make money. They should expect the same thing from you, and you should be able to deliver it easily in a way that your competitors cannot.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to number 7.
Number 7, right? This is the last part or the fourth part of
running your factory at optimum efficiency.
Yep.
Let's take small CPA firms as an example. I expect my CPA firm clients to operate at between a 55 and 65% gross profit. All right? Now, I'm not an accountant, but gross profit is gross revenue less cost of goods sold. And as far as I'm concerned, cost of goods sold in an accounting firm is labor. So if you take your gross revenue and subtract your gross labor and you're not hitting between 55 and 65%, you're doing something wrong, because there's a lot of firms out there that are doing it. There's a lot of firms that I work with that started out with a 28 to 30% gross profit and moved them up to a 60% gross profit. It took 2 or 3 years. It doesn't happen overnight. There are no silver bullets. But the bottom line is you need to run your practice like a business by the numbers. And 55 to 65% gross profit is a great target to shoot for. The way you do that is by managing the throughput process of your practice. Put it down on a piece of paper, draw a line, and put every single step on that line. And then take a look at how it's accomplished. That's a perfect example of a firm that I just spoke to. In fact, it's your accountant. I worked with them 7 or 8 years ago, and we had staff, 3 or 4 staff people, calling clients just to get them to send in their bank recs so we could do their work. We were calling them, we were begging, we were pleading. They even had somebody that called the client's mother to get the bank statement. This is ridiculous. Either you get your bank statement in by such and such a date, or there's a $100 surcharge and we don't do business with you anymore. Believe it or not, they get their stuff in. You just have to have the perspicacity to take that stand. So you need to manage your throughput process and identify and eliminate bottlenecks. Every bottleneck in your throughput process is a profit leak. Now, let me tell you something about profit leaks. Even if you're operating at a 50% gross profit, maybe your net profit is only 10 or 12 or 20%, whatever it is. But if it's 20%, which is high, if it's a 20% net profit, that means you get 20 cents out of every new dollar that comes in the door. Guess what? Every profit leak you plug, a dollar falls to the bottom line. So where are you better off, getting 20-cent dollars or $1 dollars? Every profit leak you plug, you plug $100 worth of profit leak, $100 falls to the bottom line. You bring in $100 worth of new business, $20 falls to the bottom line. Where are you better off? You decide. Learn how to run your factory at optimum efficiency.
So that's one of the most fascinating things also that you and I talk about is all your, you have so many stories about clients that you've worked with where you go in and you do your day there and you walk around and you're talking to the staff and all this. And then you come up with examples that are losing dollars that are right there under their noses, under the business owners or the accountants' noses, and they don't know that are there. Can you give a couple of examples of clients that you've worked with and the profit leaks?
Let me explain why that is. Most CPA firms operate on what I call the class of 1946 mentality. Yeah. That's the way they did it back in 1946. Then I split off and did it that way. Then I split off and did it that way. And you're all operating under the class of 1946 mentality, which doesn't work anymore, by the way. It's 2020. All right. It's not 1946. And that's the way it's always been done, is one of the biggest problems in the profession. So in looking at enhancing profitability, there are so many different ways to do it. It's ridiculous. You need to start looking for it. I mean, we had one firm that I worked with, it wasn't even a CPA firm, it was a client of a CPA, doing $2 million a year. And I walked in, their average sale was $2,000. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. They had 2,000 sales a year that averaged $2,000. That's $4 million a year. And in looking at it, I found out that they had about 12 million people a year come through their door. 12,000 people a year come through their door. Let me see. 12,000 people came through the door, and they were a specialty store. They sold stoves, fireplaces, and outdoor kitchens. They had 2,000 sales out of 12,000 people. What happened to the other 10,000 people? And you alluded to that earlier. We just put in a system for them to follow up on the 10,000 people that didn't buy. And in 1 year, they went from $4 million a year to $8 million a year. And we cut the advertising by 2/3 because all they were doing was skimming the cream and allowing the milk to go sour. And that's the exact example. Most CPAs do that. You skim the cream, you take the ones you have, and the others, they're gone. They're out of sight, out of mind. Big mistake. So
and this was, I just want to interject, this was a long time ago before they had all the off-the-shelf softwares.
Oh, absolutely. This was 25 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
We had to do it manually.
Right. So now there's all kinds of plug and play, software, CRM softwares to help you make sure that you never drop a lead or you run your business much more efficiently. You don't have 3 people calling for the same, thing to your clients. I'll tell you, my bookkeeper, she just, she has what they call accountant's access to my statements at through online banking. So she doesn't ever have to ask me for my statements. She just gets them herself.
Gets it, right. And that's right. The reason she has that is because I got that firm to do that. Let me give you one more quick one before we go. I worked with a CPA firm, about a $3 million firm over in New Jersey. Nicest people you'd want to meet. Good people, did a lot for the world. And in working, as Andy said, I walked around and asked a bunch of questions. What I found out was that, and this is going back about 25 years ago, I found out that most of the accountants that work there, seniors and supervisors, their biggest lament and biggest complaint was, it takes me 20 minutes to a half an hour to find the file before I can go to work. So after listening to that, and I'm not the best accountant in the world. In fact, I'm not even an accountant. I failed it, I hated it. But the bottom line is, it doesn't take long to figure out. I've got 20 staff people times 20 minutes, 4 times a day, going around looking for files. You add up the numbers. So I went to the managing partner, who was kind of a cranky old SOB. And I said to him, Larry, what you need to do is you need to hire somebody just to do filing. And he looked at me and said, what are you, crazy? I'm going to spend $40,000 a year to have some kid come in here and do filing? I said, no. let's take a look at it. You've got 20 accountants working out there, and I worked the numbers of $20 with $20 or whatever the blended rate was at the time, which was like $85 and $90 an hour, times 20 accountants, times 4 times a day, times 5 days a week, times 45 weeks in a year.
Okay.
And I said, you do the math because you're the accountant. And I said, and you're not going to invest $40,000 to get that kind of a return? I can't help you anymore.
Yeah, not he was talking about spending. You're talking about investing. Same thread of continuity.
Yeah, thread of continuity. You're going to invest in that person, and it brought them a huge return. They hired somebody that week. You don't need a rocket scientist to learn how to run around and pick up files and file them. But it was costing him a fortune in profit. That's a profit leak.
Yeah, and every business has those. But I mean, I'll just jump in. You've helped me with with us and the way we run things, and we had the same issue because we do financial aid forms for 300 something families a year, and my wife does most of them. And if her billable rate is something like $500 an hour, and she's spending time chasing passwords and things for people that could be accomplished by a $15 an hour person, then we're losing $485 an hour every time she does that. So that's the way. It's a profit leak. It's the way to think about it.
That's what I call a blinding flash of the obvious. Sometimes we have those. There are tons of profit leaks in your clients' businesses. There are tons of profit leaks in your practices, which I prefer to call a business. Look for them, you'll find them.
Great. All right, so we are overtime. We're not out of time. We're on borrowed time here. So just to wrap up, if anyone, it would be very obvious and natural if you're listening to us talk, and particularly Neil talk, and you're interested in potentially exploring how he could possibly help you optimize your business.
How we could help.
How we could, sorry. In terms of the 4 components: creating the opportunities, converting those opportunities, delivering on the value proposition, and optimizing the factory, so to speak. That's all stuff that he has developed in this proprietary model, and I help him the best that I can. So if you are interested, Neil, what is the best way to get in touch with you? Is it by email?
Neil, Neil, at cpanetwork.org. That's Neil, Neil at cpanetwork.org. Or if you really want to, call my cell phone, 631-513-3309. That's 631-513-3309. And I'll be happy to hear from you.
All right. So Neil is very generous with his time, but we are partners. So I'm just going to say a few things. And if you disagree with me, or you can yell at me. But listen, this is a crazy time. We are, there's only so many hours in a day, and it's just us. There's, we don't have a whole factory full of people who can deliver Neil's and my expertise. So if you are interested, he's not going to be taking on clients and offering these sessions forever. So that's all I'll say. Do it sooner rather than later, because we can't promise that we will be able together to take on new clients forever, because we're doing a lot of these types of presentations and getting a lot of inquiries as we revive your old database.
We're busy.
Yeah. So
the other thing is what I was going to say, and I didn't say it properly, but I've allocated 45-minute strategy sessions, and I'm willing to do 6 45-minute strategy sessions for those who apply to it. To apply, you have to email me and let me know that you want to apply for a strategy session, and I'll reach out back to you and hand you some questions. And if you qualify, we'll set up a time for a strategy session on your practice, on your issue, and your business. And I've got 6 of those I put aside.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So the thing I like about the application is that it forces anyone, and this is something that if you're listening, you should think about maybe incorporating your own practice, just to go meta here. It makes your prospect kind of crystallize what it is they exactly need help with, or what they think they need help with, because sometimes people don't know. So he's happy to talk to you at donate the time, and he's not cheap. I mean, he's an investment that pays off. But can't be for everyone, and it really has to be for people who've invested their own time to think through the answers to some of these questions on the strategy session questionnaire. Is that fair?
One last thought on that topic. The worst thing you can do is go out to see a prospect and say, what services would you like? Can't tell you how many CPAs have gone out to pitch a client and then finished up by saying, "What services would you like?"
You know what that's like? That reminds me, it's like you go to the doctor and he's sitting. There's a whole bunch of pills behind and shelves of pills. You're not going to go to the doctor and say, "Okay, I'll take a couple bottles of those, 3 of these." Yeah,
I want a shot of that stuff.
Yeah, the doctor is the diagnostician, not the patient.
You are the business. You should be looking at yourselves as business doctors. And at that point, I think we'll have to say, have a great day, happy trails, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I really appreciate it.
All right, great. So I'm Andy Lockwood. He's Neil Gilmet. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and thanks for sharing your time with us today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for attending today's webinar. Tad Stevens, CPEthink.com here. With a little housekeeping. To get your certificate of completion, if you will look at the screen here, this is what your take exam column will look like before you complete the webinar or before it's over. After the webinar is over, give us about 30 to 60 minutes and we will have it up, the system updated from the webinar provider, and it will look like this so that you can get your certificate of completion. If you have any support issues, just click the chat bubble down at the bottom, open a new conversation like that, and we'll get it taken care of, or send us an email to service@cpethink.com. Thanks a lot.